So, welcome to this session looking at the catalogues, the catalogue for Oxford, for all of the libraries in Oxford. In fact, it isn't all of the libraries. There are one or two libraries that don't show their holdings in the catalogue we're about to look at, but by far and away the majority do. And the catalogue is called Solo. So let's go straight there. So that's the URL. Let me just key that in. So here we are on the university-wide, or pretty much the university-wide catalogue. So search Oxford Libraries online, that's what Solo stands for. So here's the homepage, and you should really think of it as a gateway to all of the resources, both printed and electronic, that are held in Oxford and are available to you. So the electronic resources, which we'll have a look at too, they are available to all members of the university, just by virtue of being a member. And in order to get the full access to all of the e-resources, you do want to sign in each time, and you're signing in at the top right. So let's do that now, and you are signing in using your single sign-on password, which is the same as your email password. So let's see if this remembers me. It has, because I was logged in on another package, so it's just remembered me from that, because that's the whole point about a single sign-on. It's shared across resources. But if it hadn't remembered me, you just put in your WAD number, WADH, and the 4 digits, and your password, as I say, the same as your email. So here I am logged in, and your name's going to appear at the top right. So now you know you're getting full access to everything. The other thing about signing in is when you compile things like a bibliography, which is one thing you can do with Solo, you can put titles you're interested in, and this is just the bibliographic records, of course. We're not talking about the actual books, we're just talking about the bibliographic records that describe the books. So if you're logged in here, and you do put those bibliographic records for the books you're interested in to one side, kind of like in a basket, like if you're online shopping, it will remember that list of books next time you log in. Whereas if you just search anonymously, it will remember it only for that session. But let's start off by looking at a book. Let's start with a really, this is where I do in-person sessions, in person, not in Persian, although we do have a specialist Persian collection in Wadham Library, so Freudian slip. But in person, when we've done sessions before, this is where I ask for somebody to give me an example to search for, but nobody's there. So let me think of something myself, and I'm just going to go for Shakespeare. This is going to bring back a lot of hits. So we are searching for a very popular term. We're searching everything in the Oxford Libraries world, and it's going to show us, here we go, we've 640,000 plus results, and of those, over on the left you get a little summary of what format those are in. So online resources are by far the majority, which gives you a good idea of what amazing e-resources are there. Physical resources, we've still got quite a lot, over 20,000, so those are print books, and these are databases and online journals and that sort of thing. And then we've got a couple of other formats broken down and listed here. So it's all very intuitive, and you're probably quite familiar with the idea of a library catalogue. So all you would do is, if you're interested in this particular item, you just click through. So you'll see it says here multiple versions. Of course, we've made a very, very general search with a very, very general term. So we can be very specific equally if we want to be. So it's a very flexible interface. So if we click on advanced search, it's remembered our search term. So now we can combine that with something to sort of restrict and narrow the search down a bit. And we can choose what field we want to narrow it by. So we might say the author has to either contain the word, or even starts with, or the exact phrase. So let's keep it simple and say contains, and let's say something like Smith. So now we're looking for anything where any field in the record contains Shakespeare. We might pin that down a little bit and say it's the title that's got to have our search term. So you can see the flexibility straight away. You can control the results by filtering under any of these headings. So we're looking for Shakespeare in the title, contains. We could again say starts with, or if we had a phrase like Shakespeare in London, we could say my exact phrase. So Shakespeare in London would be part of the title in that case, if that makes sense. So we've now got title Shakespeare, and we're also combining it with the author has to have, or an author has to have, surname of Smith. So suddenly look how much fewer results we've got, 394. So you get the idea, and of course we're talking about Shakespeare, but it could be biochemistry, astrophysics, whatever your subject. And there are even more controls where you can narrow it even more. So you can narrow the search by format, and you can say, I'm only interested in articles. So we were looking for everything. Now we're only looking for articles. So we're going to get fewer results again. Now we're down to 109. You can also search, another way you can narrow the search is by the collection and the library. So here we are interested to a great extent in Wadham's holdings, but you obviously can use the Bodleian and all of the faculty libraries for your subject, and even some of the specialist libraries. If it's not exactly your subject, if it's closely related, you can apply and you can join. So for example, anthropology library, you could join that if that's going to bear on your, if you're doing a history degree, if it's sort of a little bit interdisciplinary, do think of joining other libraries. I should say you can't join other college libraries. So your own college library, so for you, Wadham, is your library, and you can't go to Christchurch Library and expect to just sort of, make use of their resources. So it's like a private sort of members library. There is one thing that's worth noting about that, is that if a college library has, another college library has the only copy of a book in the Oxford University Libraries world, they have they exclusively have the copy of that book. You can apply to them in advance by emailing them and ask if you can go and read that book in their library. You wouldn't be able to borrow it, but they ordinarily do let you in. So you can just make an appointment, and it's quite nice to go and see other library reading rooms and see if you still think Wadham's the best library. Okay, so let's go down to Wadham. So we'll just add Wadham. We're now filtering out all the results we get. So we had, I've forgotten already, but we had, was it 600,000 hits when we were searching the whole libraries in Oxford, all of the libraries for Shakespeare. Now let's see how we get on when we're looking for only, so everything that comes here. So wait a minute, we've got no records found. That doesn't sound right. So what have I done wrong? I can't immediately see. Starts with Shakespeare, that should still be all right. Sometimes you learn by things going wrong, which this kind of has. It's over here. Articles, that's what I forgot to change. So this is telling us that actually Wadham Library has no articles where the title starts with Shakespeare. So that might be a useful lesson for you to kind of, again, understand how it's all working. So if we take that off, and let's just have all items. So we're still now, we're back to quite a general search, but with a Wadham Library filter. So let's try that again. Sorry about that. So now that's looking a bit better, 688 results. You'll see that included in these automatically is the electronic resources, which is bumping up that total because it does include electronic resources. But you can strip those out if actually you're just looking for a print book in Wadham Library. So we'll do that by selecting physical resources. We're going to apply the filter for that, and now we will get fewer results. So now we're down to 104. So remember, because we still have this left over from our first search strategy, starts with, so that's narrowing that number down. But if we make that contain, so in other words, Shakespeare can be anywhere in the title, could be at the end of the title, not just starting. So we search, this number's going to go up because we'll have a lot. So, but remember, we've gone back to including online resources, so we've lost that filter. So if we go to physical resources, do that again, apply filters, we've now, I think it was showing us 312. So it's gone up again, but it's still not as many as if obviously the electronic resources were included. So when you've actually found the item you're interested in, and of course you might just be browsing to kind of discover what's out there, or you might know the book, the exact book you want to actually track down. So when you apply the Wadham filter, Wadham library, you now know that everything that comes up, unless it's an electronic resource, which in any case you have access right there in front of you on the screen by clicking through and into the resource, as long as you've signed in, as we did at the beginning, with our name, your name appearing at the top right. Yes, you are now browsing the shelves effectively. Really intuitive, and you've probably come up with against this in just using other libraries. So just click through to we're now going to find where we have this book. So we know Wadham's going to be in the list because we had that filter applied, but all of the other libraries will also display. So in fact, we've chanced upon a book that only we and the Bodleian have. So that's quite nice. So just click through, so see where we have it, and E15S is the shelf mark. We have a fairly simple classification, which is good in some ways and bad in others. But so E is English, 15 is the 16th century, and S is Shakespeare. So it's as simple as that. And this is crucially available, so do pay attention to that, because if somebody else had borrowed it, that would actually give you the due date. It wouldn't say on loan, it gives you a date, and that's the date that the book is due back. So in other words, if there was a date there, you can't get this that quickly, you're waiting for the other person to return it. Let's show you the electronic resources. So we'll keep our same search. So if we now strip out the print books and the Google books and the other categories, we'll apply the filters. So it's thinking about it. So now we've got 11 results, and these are all online. You can see the green button, online access. So some quite interesting looking things here. 1768, that's quite nice. All you would do is click on online access. Again, because we signed in at the beginning of the session, if you remember, at the top right, your name appeared. You don't have to do anything else. You're into this record. It just takes a bit of time to load. So here we are with it having loaded. So it's Google Books project, so held by the Bodleian, and you just scroll down and you can see you get some nice images of it. Yeah, there you are, you're right in the resource. I'm showing you now then how you compile a bibliography, so just to show you how it works. So this, let's say, is a title I'm interested in. So I could actually click on that and see where it is, but I'm just going to actually make my reading list of things I'm interested in. So all you need to do is add it to your favorites. There you go. And when you now click on that, it will appear. So there we go. It took a second to load, but there it is. So these are other ones I've done previously. So it's just added it to the top of the list. So as I mentioned, because you've done this when you're already logged in, when you leave this session, you could come back in 2 weeks and this will still be here, as we saw with my previous searches. So you can then export this list. You can email it to yourself or to anyone else. You can put it into a bibliographic package like EndNote. So hopefully that's a useful tool. You can also subtitle it into, you can create your own folder. So if it was a particular branch of astrophysics, you could then call that folder that and put the books relating to that there. And it's all stored for you next time you go in. The other thing that's really useful with Solo is, again, tied to the fact that you're actually logged in, is at the top right, you can see what books you're borrowing from all of your libraries that you're members of. It's not just Wadham. So we can have a look at my loans, and so here we go, the due date, and I can renew the book if I want to. So you can just do everything remotely. And Also, you don't have to carry your big heavy science books, for example, into the library to renew them laboriously. You can just do it all here. So if we go back to the Solo homepage, I mentioned at the start you should think of this as a gateway to lots of resources. So we're not just actually looking at the library catalogue here. We're also we're looking at electronic resources. So we did look at some with those filters on the left, but there's another link here. So we could click on this, and we now are in electronic journals, and Oxford pays for access to hundreds of thousands of journals, and within each journal there'll be, with all the back numbers, there'll be hundreds of thousands of articles. So here is a place you can come and look at just electronic journals. So probably the best thing for you to do, rather than me sort of spend a lot of time going in and out of lots of things, is for you to come back when you have a moment, so that you know now where to find this link from the Solo homepage. It was down on the bottom right, and just maybe come and browse. So if you are, for example, a social scientist, so archaeology, we have 171 journal titles. So that's a lot, actually. And I mean, look for anthropology, 593. And those are the journal titles. And as I say, obviously within each journal, there's so many articles. And all you would do is just click through, click on go. Now we're going to see the titles of all those 171 archaeology journals. And you would just click in, and then you would get all of the holdings and the back numbers, depending how far back the coverage goes. It could go back to 1920 when they've digitized the content in recent years, and they've built up a really good library of that journal. So that is journals. So if you have any questions about any of these or anything at all about libraries, but obviously for this session, anything about Solo and catalogue searching, you can always just email library@Wadham, so OXACUK. So that's the address you use just to get in touch with us. And as I mentioned earlier, that's where you send a request for us to buy a book for you. So any questions about e-resources, please just fire an email off to us at library@Wadham. Okay, so let us go back to, I'll just close that tab. So here we are back at Solo. You can always click on the home page if you kind of get lost. But we are still down where we looked at eJournals link. There's another very similar link to databases. So where eJournals are, articles in journals, this is something like, for example, the Oxford English Dictionary. This is taking a second to load. But there's a lot of content here again. It doesn't look quite so impressive in numerical terms because each one is a huge database. So we don't get, there we are, we've got over 1,500 databases in total under all subjects. But again, so you can browse by subject, so there's a lot of scope there. So for your subject, again, probably just worth when you have time, come here and look at this and explore a little bit to see what's there. And again, it's all very intuitive. You just kind of click through till you get to the actual content itself. Okay, so so those are two really major resources: databases and electronic journals. So also, it's worth pointing out to you till you sort of find your feet in the very complex or impressively varied Oxford and rich Oxford Libraries world. It's not really that complex. It all behaves in the same way, so don't be put off. But and we're here to help. So, but basically, it's a fantastically rich resource. So some of this is going to be useful for you as you get started. So workshops, for example, you can actually sign up to a subject specialist workshop given by a subject librarian. So that would be well worth doing. Getting started is, again, there's some really good guides here. This is a really good thing, Oxford Reading Lists Online. And when you click on that, that actually, again, gives you loads and loads of detail all around your course where the tutor has uploaded content. And that again, is well worth exploring. And again, get in touch with us if if you get stuck at any point. But again, it's all very intuitive. And so we get subjects A to Z. So, you could just look under history, for example, and this will give you a really good overview of everything that's available. So e-resources, trials that they're running, because of course they're constantly updating and buying new resources. And so induction for historians. So, are you getting the picture? Hopefully there's a whole lot of content here. And if you remember, we're getting to all of these places from the Solo homepage. So that's why we're thinking of it as a gateway. And then, more links, which again, you might like to look at. So Oxford Research Archive is a depository where researchers leave a copy of their electronic copy of their work. So that's a kind of Oxford community thing for researchers, but again, accessible to you. Special collections catalogue. So really just kind of have a look around and explore. So that is really my introduction to you for Solo. Hopefully you'll get the hang of it pretty quickly. And really let me take this opportunity to just mention again that thing about us buying books for you. We hope that you will get all the books you need through Wadham, or certainly many of them, and think of it as your library and your library of first resort, although you do have a wide choice in Oxford. But do remember to ask us for books, because we are here to get you the content you need, and we have a budget to do that. We are buying off from reading lists, of course, as well. But a really key way that we can be very responsive is to get the books you ask us to buy. And generally, we can get those pretty quickly. They often come the very next day. So thank you very much, and I hope this has been a useful session. And again, just get in touch with any questions. Thank you very much.